Okay, it seems like we're up. Yep.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the QuickBooks Desktop trends you need to embrace in 2023. As we wait another minute or two while people are tuning in, how about you head over to the chat and you let us know your name and where you're tuning in from today. We are tuning in from Toronto, both of us.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year. So excited to be with all of you today. All right, looks like we've got a few people chatting in. I see New York, UK, love to see that, a little bit late for you guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome. California, ooh, I wish I was in California right now.
Yeah, especially with the rain.
100%. Hopefully it's sunny in California and where everyone else is. It's not so much in Toronto today. Cool.
Okay, so with that, how about we introduce ourselves? So my name is Felipa, and I'll be the moderator and host of today's webinar. I'm the content strategist here at Method, and joining me today is Elish. Elish.
So my name's Elish. I lead the SEO and content team here at Method. If any of you are new to Method as a brand or a company, we are best known for being the #1 QuickBooks CRM. And of course, that includes QuickBooks Desktop. So we've got a ton of great tips to share with you today. So we'll dive into that in just a few seconds.
Yeah, before we start, I would like to remind everyone that you will receive a recording of the session along with the slides in your inbox, hopefully by Monday, by next Monday. Also, there will be a Q&A section at the end of the session, but you can drop your questions anytime in the chat, so you don't have to worry about forgetting that. And yeah, and with that, let's get started. So to start the session, I'm going to launch a poll that should be showing up on your screens right now. My question for you is, what is your main business focus for 2023? Is it company growth, customer retention, increasing efficiency, hiring the right people? Yeah, so I'll give everyone a minute so they can get their answers in, and then let's see what you are saying.
Totally. Thanks, Lipa. I would say too, like at Method, it's probably like a toss-up of all four of them,
All of
right?
them.
I feel like growth is probably our big one. Then maybe retention. Hiring's really tough too, but yeah, curious to hear what everyone on the call is kind of saying their top priority is for the new year.
So it looks like most people have voted. So I'm gonna go ahead and close and let's see what the results are. Okay, so the big majority of you is focusing on increasing efficiency this year, which is great. Right after that, we have 27% company growth, 13% hiring the right people, and last with 7% customer retention. All great goals.
I think too, for the majority of you out there looking to increase efficiency, we might have some good tips that we can kind of share today to get you on the right track there.
Absolutely. And this brings me to my first question to you, Elish. What trends and challenges are you anticipating for 2023?
Great question. So I feel like I want to start off by saying this is the first year where pandemic is not a big trend or challenge that I'm talking about. So that is super exciting. Let's hope that kind of, holds through for the rest of 2023. And we're not watching this back in a few months going, oh, what was she saying? So I would say the first trend that I think a lot of businesses, and it kind of ties into that increasing efficiency point there, where they're focusing is on doing more with less. So even if you do have the capital to, be increasing the size of your team and stuff like that, there's still this huge pressure to do more with less, especially with, the recession that we're in the midst of. And I think automation is a key way to really get your efficiency up versus, spending a lot of time on tasks that aren't as high value as you probably want to see. So it was funny, I was on a call earlier with Alex Newson, and he was saying how, we're really starting to view software as kind of like, part of your team, like that crucial member of your team that you can trust, that is going to be there no matter what. They're, a lot less error prone than, let's face it, humans. So I think that's going to be a big trend that we see. So doing more with less with the help of technology, I would say would be a really big one. Another one too is, I think, purchase power is going to be on the decline as a result of the recession, as well as like, I think most places around the world today are in a bit of a cost of living crisis. So with that, I think companies and growing businesses are going to need to get a lot more creative and a lot smarter with where they're putting their resources. So I think data-driven insights, we're going to see a lot more of that this year, and just working smarter, not harder per se, which I'm sure I'm a big fan of that. I'm sure all of you are as well. And then kind of the last one, I think needs to be a big priority and we're going to see more of is cybersecurity. So throughout the pandemic, unfortunately, we saw a lot of like small to mid-sized businesses being I guess, a target for different phishing schemes as well as just attacks in general. So I think this really needs to be a pressing priority, especially when we're talking about data that's as secure and confidential as what lives in QuickBooks Desktop. So I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis on that education and training up your staff just to make sure that you are keeping all your confidential information safe, whether that's social security numbers, whether that's customer credit card information, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Ilish. Great insights. While we're on the topic of cybersecurity, I'm going to launch our second poll. All right, so how would you, the audience, rate your company's readiness for a cybersecurity attack? Would you say that you're ready with a response plan and ongoing training? Would you say you know that it's a risk but don't really have a formal plan as of yet? Or you're simply not ready and need to start creating a plan with training? Again, I'm going to give everyone a minute so you can get your answers in, and then I'll share the results with everyone. Okay, so it looks like the majority of you have gotten your answers in. I'm going to go ahead and close and share the results. So again, big majority of you said that you know it's a risk, but don't have a formal plan yet. And then it's a bit of a tie between those who have a response plan and ongoing training and those who are not ready and need to start creating a plan. Well, luckily, I think Ilish has got some great insights for us about surrounding cybersecurity. And I'm wondering, with all the phishing emails going around in the last year or so and cyber attacks in businesses, how do you recommend that our audience keep their QuickBooks Desktop data safe?
Yeah, for sure. So I think when it comes to phishing and like those kind of attacks where you can train up your staff to spot them, to be alert, to report them, that's a really key element. So there's a lot of programs out there that will send like fake phishing emails, fake phishing text, all that kind of stuff to your team, just to keep them diligent, just so that they know what to watch out for, all that kind of jazz. So I would start with that if phishing stuff is something that your business has been experienced recently. We get a lot of that at Method, and it can be really convincing, especially if you're a little bit tired or anything like that, to kind of fall into that trope. So just again, information's power there. So I would just train up your staff to the best of your ability, right? So that's one. Another one is going to be password protect everything, right? So tools like LastPass, OnePass, those are great for one, generating dynamic passwords that are hard to guess, sorry, as well as like storing them somewhere that's a lot more secure than, let's say, a sticky note on your desktop computer, which I know a lot of us do, but definitely not a best practice, especially when you consider how confidential the information you actually have in QuickBooks Desktop is. And again, on that note, like you want to make sure that you are keeping confidential data in platforms that do, regular security audits and are a lot harder to, I guess, kind of access than, maybe just sending someone a text or leaving a voicemail or even just, firing off some sort of information you wouldn't want to get into the wrong hands via, Gmail or Outlook, right? So that's where too, like a lot of apps that actually like securely integrate with QuickBooks Desktop are going to be kind of a must for 2023 when it comes to, enabling your team to work remotely and all that kind of stuff and keep that data secure. Beyond that, I would say update your software as needed. So I know there's a lot of hesitation sometimes from the QuickBooks Desktop community when it kind of comes to upgrading your software, but with each, I guess, update or upgrade that software companies like Intuit are pushing, they're also releasing new security patches. So obviously, as the world of cybersecurity gets more complex, there's different threats, all that kind of stuff. Software releases are going to contain patches to kind of be the first line of defense. So if you haven't upgraded your QuickBooks Desktop software in quite a while, I would say you don't want to leave it more than, let's say, a year and a half max. You're missing out on those key patches, right? So I know there's sometimes hesitancies around upgrading or updating right away. That's fine. But I would say like within that 3 to 6 month mark, that's ideal state for wanting to actually update your software, because by that point they've worked out any kind of kinks that kind of come out with an initial release, and then you are just really getting the benefits of potentially new features, which is awesome, but also security updates.
Great tips. That goes to show you that you can never be too careful when it comes to keeping your data safe, especially confidential data. Now, with talks of a looming recession and everything going on the cloud these days, I'm wondering if QuickBooks Desktop will be shifting focus, or if 2023 is bringing us new features as well. What can you tell us about that, Elish?
Yeah, for sure. So I think inventory is going to be a huge focus kind of this year for QuickBooks Desktop users. Intuit's doing a ton to kind of enhance those capabilities. So they've got quite a few new releases for this year that you can take advantage of, and I would highly recommend. So the first one here is inventory categories. So you're actually going to be able to like group different items in your QuickBooks Desktop account into categories for a more, I guess, like comprehensive, holistic view of your inventory. So there's a screenshot there that kind of shows you like where in the product you can select that. But let's say you have a bunch of different products or items in QuickBooks that are all related to, in this example, bike chains, but they're kind of different models and different brands. What's really nice here is you can summarize that information a lot quicker and just look at bike chains as an inventory category now versus looking at it, I guess, on a more micro level of just the actual item. So yeah, so that's one feature for sure. And then I think if we go to the next slide there, oh yeah, this is an example of how it would look in a report like an inventory valuation summary. So you kind of see like a more macro lens, which is really helpful when you're trying to, I guess, get those data driven insights that are going to help you weather the storm of 2023. And then moving on, they've also added inventory expiration dates, which for anyone who sells any sort of products that expires at some point in time, whether it's, like food or let's say paint, for example, they've added kind of this feature here where you can actually include the expiration date for the product, which is great and is going to help you, like order more effectively. So keep that cash flow healthy, as well as alert you to if you do have products that are expiring and you still have a lot of them in stock. Then perhaps, the insight to take from that is, hey, you know what, I should probably put this on sale because otherwise it's going to be a lost cost for your business, right? So this is a really cool feature as well, centered around inventory.
Interesting. I'm wondering if QuickBooks offers any features that could come in handy during recession. Do you have any insights?
Yeah, great thought. So exactly that with the cash flow hub. So you're going to be able to see like incoming money that's coming into your business that you can expect in the next 15, 30, 60 days, as well as see I guess a prediction of expenses that you're going to have. So if you pay rent every month, this cash flow hub here is going to like alert what your cash flow is going to look like after you paid all your regular expenses, as well as what money you should be expecting to come into your business, whether your payment terms are like net 15, net 30, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And then, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Cool. And then another one is going to be this mileage tracker. So this is really cool. So obviously tracking mileage has, historically been a bit of a more, I guess, spreadsheety, kind of process. But now we're actually taking that into QuickBooks Desktop in a really sleek way. So they've got this kind of new mileage tracker that will just making, reporting these expenses to the IRS and also billing your customers for these expenses a lot easier through QuickBooks Desktop. So on the right here, you can kind of see the mobile view of this, feature. So it's only available for phones on iOS, which I'm pretty sure is just iPhones for now. But really sleek, you can get, whether it's yourself or your employees that are doing this driving here, you can have them, as soon as they get out of the car and are safely parked, actually input that expense for you. So a very cool feature there as well.
And very convenient too. How about connected features?
Yeah, great question. So we're also seeing a bit of a shift in the QuickBooks Desktop experience in 2023 to be a little bit more similar to QuickBooks Online, which I know a lot of desktop users are worried about. Is Intuit going to eventually sunset QuickBooks Desktop? That's been kind of a point of debate for quite some time, but I think what we're going to see is they're just going to invest a little bit in making the two experiences a little bit more similar. So one way that we're going to see this is they're changing up kind of the pricing model. So it's not just like this one-time fee. Instead, they're moving into more of like a SaaS model. So for those of you unfamiliar with what that means, it's just basically when you pay for software on a monthly recurring basis versus, the one-time fee that you usually pay for, let's say QuickBooks Desktop versions 5 years ago. So that's one change. They implemented that last year, so not totally net new. But if you're thinking about upgrading your QuickBooks Desktop account, something to have on your radar for sure. And then another thing, mobile app. So I think this was released, 2021. So not, again, net new, but something to kind of focus on there. So yeah, so you can definitely take advantage of that and bring some of your accounting data safely to the cloud via the QuickBooks Desktop mobile app. Yeah. And then beyond that, we have improved bank connections. So again, I know people love bank feeds. That makes the life of accountants so much easier. And QuickBooks Desktop has just opened up to a few different banks that you can now connect. And then also added some encryption just to make sure that information is totally secure.
Thanks for that, Eilish. That's a lot of new features to look forward to. I was wondering, while in the topic of new features for the year, if there are any new QuickBooks Desktop best practices that maybe your audience should start implementing today.
Yeah, great question. So I wouldn't say this is like a completely new one, but a general rule of thumb is you don't want to be storing any non-accounting data in QuickBooks Desktop. Just because you're going to end up really cluttering your account, and it opens up the door for inaccuracies and misunderstanding on what the data actually means. So one example that definitely comes to mind for me is, I've heard a lot of horror stories of people inputting, potential sales opportunities really in QuickBooks Desktop as actual revenue, which for any accountants on the line just causes a huge nightmare come year end when you're like, hey, there's this $25,000 discrepancy going on. What happened here? And then, you talk to maybe the business owner, maybe your sales manager, and they're like, oh yeah, I was really sure that deal was going to close, and then it never actually did. So I think the lesson here is QuickBooks Desktop is a really powerful software, but it's not meant to do everything. It's not meant to handle every function of your business. And so I think that's where these best of breed point solutions really come in. So things like Method, Specialize, and things like lead management, customer management, workflow automation. That's what that tool was designed to do, where QuickBooks Desktop is really great at accounting functions. But beyond that, I don't think you should just be cramming random pieces of data into QuickBooks Desktop, because yeah, you're going to end up with situations like the one I just mentioned, and it's going to get a little bit ugly, unfortunately. So luckily, I think it's desktop.apps.marketplace or something like that is the QuickBooks Desktop App Store. And there's tons of tools on there that integrate really strongly with QuickBooks Desktop so that you can leverage best of breed tools without, having to worry about rekeying information or tools not talking to each other, or teams having totally disconnected views of the business. So definitely highly recommend checking out those integrations. And then just another final one that's an easy tip is I would just say have some standards around how you're actually inputting data, just so when it comes time to actually analyze that data and drive insights from it, you're not spending all this time again, rekeying information or being wait, why is it formatted like this? I don't know, is this January 1st that the date's saying, or is it June 1st, or what's the opposite there? Yeah, January 6th, or I guess June 1st. So yeah, so just be clear with your team on that, set some standards, and I think that will save you a lot of hassle kind of in the long run there.
Great tips again. Thank you, Elish. And that brings us to our third and final poll, which I am launching now. And I'm asking you, the audience, how big of a priority is using apps that integrate with QuickBooks Desktop for you? Is it a huge priority, a must? Is it important but not a deal breaker? Is it a nice to have sort of thing for you, or just not a priority at this time? So I see some responses coming in. Gonna give you a few more seconds. Okay, it looks like the majority of you has voted, so I'm going to be closing the poll now. And here are the responses. They're pretty even. The standout is huge priority, a must, which is great, followed by it's important but not a deal breaker and nice to have sort of thing. And 20% of you said that it's just not a priority at this time. Okay, interesting. So I was wondering now, Elish, I understand how valuable Method can be to small businesses and even medium businesses when they're scaling, but could you please sort of walk us through how it can complement QuickBooks Desktop's limitations?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the integration there is a key point, right? So if you are on an older version of QuickBooks Desktop that you can't access, from the cloud, and you're not using, like a hosting tool like Right Networks or something like that, Method is a great way to bring all that information securely to the web, and also empower your non-accounting team members with information that they can use to move your business forward, right? So one example that really comes to mind is your sales team, for example. We know today, like, it's very competitive out there to, snag new opportunities, to get new customers. It takes a lot of work. There's a lot of money going into it as well. So I think one example of how Method's really beneficial for those QuickBooks Desktop users is they'll empower like your sales team to actually create estimates, send them out to customers, get approval with a really nice e-signature component that we're just kind of getting out into the hands of all of our users. And the estimate will come back fully signed, ready to go, sync over to your QuickBooks Desktop account, really powerful, and the deal's done. We also have online portals that would, in that example, let your new customer actually submit payment via Method. So we'll send out these like portal links. So you can jump on in there as a new customer, complete payment. You'll see a ton of information related to your, I guess, like account with whatever business you are dealing with. So I can see things like my transaction history, if my payment went through, if I have any upcoming invoices, all that kind of stuff. So what we find with our portals is that it takes a lot of pressure off small business like teams. So instead of dealing with maybe more, I guess, requests like, hey, like when was my last invoice? Did my payment go through? What was the name of that part I just ordered from you guys 2 months ago? Customers can actually self-serve, which is really powerful and really opens up the door for like 24/7, I guess, operations without you having to incur that cost, which is really powerful too, because you never want to do like all the work to acquire a new customer, only for them to, go to a competitor because you weren't agile enough to get that estimate out the door, to get the invoice ready to go. So those are two standout features. Again, too, we're syncing pretty much in real time with QuickBooks Desktop, which a lot of other providers don't allow for. And we actually do have a patent on this sync, so trust us, it works. It's something a lot of our users find a lot of value in. And then beyond that too, workflow automation is something that we specialize in. So kind of the two areas where we help QuickBooks Desktop users a ton is in terms of automating their operations as well as their customer experience. So I did a kind of use case there earlier that touched on both of those elements, but there's a ton more that you can do with Method's kind of no-code platform and really just tailor it to exactly what you need. So that's a few things, kind of what we do. And if you want to get started with the trial, we do have one for 14 days right now. You can just get started at method.me.
Thank you for that. I am convinced. I would like to remind everyone that the Q&A portion is coming up pretty soon. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. We will get to those soon. And this brings us to my very last question, which is how do you recommend justifying the return on investment for more technology? Do you have any tips there, Elish?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say, let me just see here. So in terms of justifying ROI for more technology, I think we should just maybe skip ahead a slide there, Ryan. Sorry, I skipped that one. Ryan's behind the scenes helping us out with the text, so shout out to Ryan. But in terms of justifying ROI for more technology, I would say you really want to weigh the risk of like business misinformation and missed opportunities against like what the actual price of a solution is. And then again, to think about like the impact of how much time you're saving, how you can, I guess, like we have a customer, for example, who is in manufacturing, and he has customized method a ton to really leverage like his unique processes and bring them into method and actually automate them. And I think we have like some crazy quote from him that says he like ended up automating 100 hours of work a month. So like let's make that happen. So I think with new technology, like let's look at things like that. If you're paying, I don't know, whatever it is for a solution, but you're able to save 100 hours of labor costs, like that's huge. And then also like imagine what, that's, roughly 2.5 weeks of work. Like imagine what you could actually accomplish if you were focusing instead of doing more repetitive stuff like order packing or order fulfillment, if you could actually repurpose that on, strategies to, let's say increase sales, improve customer retention, all those kind of business focuses that we talked about at the start of the webinar. Imagine if you had 2.5 weeks every month to just focus on those goals for 2023. So I would say that's a big thing. And also data accuracy is a big one as well. Sometimes, we end up playing a broken telephone, and that's never super helpful. So I think with technology, everyone is working off a shared database that's updated in real time. So you're not going to risk going to a customer and being like, hey, you haven't paid your invoice yet, but low key the spreadsheet that you have access to is just out of date, and now you look really embarrassed, and you may actually upset your customer and end up losing them. So I think when we're thinking about those situations, it becomes really clear that the technology is definitely worth the money.
Well, thank you for that, Elish. I'm much more enlightened. And yeah, that brings us to our Q&A portion of today's webinar. Any lingering questions you might have, this is your time. I'm having a little bit of technical issues that I can't access. Is everything all right on your end, Elish?
Yeah, I can see some of the questions. So let me just go through them here. So I see that we have one from Heidi, and they're asking what are the per hour costs of developer customizations on Method CRM? So if you're working with our in-house team, I think our going rate right now is $145 an hour. And then if that's for just what we call pay per use, so if you just need one thing customized, we'll work with you, scope out the project, and see like what exactly it entails. So for one-offs, you're looking at $145 an hour. For people who are on what we call dedicated plans that have longer term projects, kind of on a monthly basis, we offer them a slightly discounted rate, just because we set aside time for them each month. But something that's great is each trial of method actually comes with something that we call a free hour. So it is a free hour of time with our customization experts. So they will scope out whatever your workflow is and spend an hour free of charge completely working on building out a solution that's custom to you and your business. So yeah, so that's a little bit of info there. And then Heidi, I also saw that you have a very specific use case, and I think I'm going to take this to our director of sales and follow up with you via email, just because in the world of method, often the answer is like, yes, we can likely do this in a couple different ways. So I just want to speak with him and kind of get a sense for what the best approach would be to your use case here. So yeah, so I'll reach back out to you via email for that, but thank you so much for your questions.
I do see one question on my side. I can't see who asked it, but they asked if they can import contacts from Outlook too.
Yeah, it's a great question, Jackie. So yeah, we have a few options in terms of importing contacts. So the first, whether it's from Outlook or another tool, you can always import via an Excel file, really easy. But what's super nice about our Outlook integration that we have with Method, so kind of connecting your QuickBooks Desktop data as well as your Outlook email information into Method, really helpful, is you actually can work directly from your Outlook I guess inbox and have what's called like a Method sidebar. So it's like a little panel on the side of your screen, similar to this GoToWebinar control panel that you'll be seeing, but it works directly in your inbox. And you can see once you've uploaded and connected your contacts, you're good to go there. But you can see, okay, I'm emailing Philippa today. Okay, let me see what's kind of going on with her in terms of her like sales information, her I'm trying to think what else, like contact details, transaction history, open estimates, all that kind of stuff. Just in that little panel, you'll have access to all of that information. You can see when was the last like sales activity you had with her, just in case it's forgetting your mind. Oh, what does she usually order? Maybe that's what the email is asking from Outlook. You can actually see all of that CRM data right in that panel. So really powerful, and of course, connecting to QuickBooks Desktop as well. Great. And yeah, go ahead, Felipe.
No, I was just going to ask, I don't see any more questions coming in, but
yeah. So I guess if you have any last minute questions, you can feel free to chat us. We'll do our best to answer them. And then again, a really popular one and just a little reminder, I guess, is the webinar is being recorded. So you'll get access to that on Monday. We'll also make sure to send the slides. And again, hopefully you found this helpful. If you want to forward the content to anyone else you think might benefit, please do. Great, so I think that's it. So we can probably
wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and everyone who will be watching this later. You can expect the recording, like Elish said, next Monday. And thank you, Elish, for your incredible insights. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks, Lipa. So I see we have one more question. We'll just squeeze it in because I know we're under time. So one from Gary. So Gary is wondering, how much of the sales data will the team have access to? So what's nice about Method, Gary, is you control exactly what they're seeing, right? So we set different rules and user permissions, so you can customize that, right? So if you want maybe your sales reps to not have access to as much information as your sales manager, for example, that's really easy to do in Method. So one example could be like you want your sales manager to see how each individual sales rep is performing, but you don't want all the sales reps to be able to see, you know, how much they brought in revenue, all that kind of stuff. So that's something that's really easy to control in Method. And two, it's nice as well because sales folks realistically shouldn't really be in your QuickBooks account. So you can still empower them with the I guess, accounting information that's helpful for them in Method, and not have them playing around in QuickBooks Desktop, which is really helpful, especially when you consider all the confidential information that's in QuickBooks Desktop. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. And yeah, with that, I think we can wrap up. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate your time, and you can look forward to seeing us in your inbox on Monday.
Thank you.
Bye.